It's nearly back-to-back triple trophies. I mean, we came so close to it.
I believe you play your best cricket when you're relaxed and when you're confident, and that's what we try and make the environment like at Edgbaston.
Great catch.
The guys are playing great cricket, we're winning trophies, and that's what it's all about.
I never believed that, having had the operation I did, that I'd play such a significant part in the season as I have done this year.
I'd rather work with players who are confident and used to winning, which is what this group of players are.
Knew there was something a bit special at Warwickshire, and just to come here this year and find out for myself, it's just been fantastic.
On occasions, if things aren't going too well for us, you might see us out there all having a good laugh.
The 1995 County Championship Trophy, back at Edgbaston for the second year running. And yet, you know, at the start of the 1995 season, the general feeling was that Warwickshire couldn't possibly emulate the feats of the previous year. You couldn't expect them to, could you? 3 out of 4 trophies they won. They were runners-up in the other one. Statistically, it was the best performance by a county in English cricket history. They'd also lost Brian Lara. Lara, not just the best batsman in the world, but also he scored his runs at such speed that he allowed his bowlers to bowl the opposition out twice. They'd also lost Bob Woolmer. Woolmer, the most imaginative coach in the English game. He'd gone to South Africa as their cricket coach, and Woolmer's habit of stretching the players, about making them think about the game, that would be sorely missed. His place had been taken by Phil Neal. Phil Neal, a tough, experienced character with a deep practical knowledge of the English game. He was a worthy successor to Bob Woolmer, but a different kind of a coach. Bound to be teething problems early on at Edgbaston because Neal and Woolmer, they approached the job from a different kind of angle.
Dermot found suddenly that he'd had Bob Woolmer, who was coming at it from very much a coaching point of view and would, at the intervals, go to players on a one-to-one basis and talk technique, whereas I was thinking from the captaincy point of view, which is my upbringing and my background. So I think there was a feeling that initially we were duplicating a little bit at the start of the season.
One of the biggest things that Phil's brought to us is the fact that he was used to that sort of success with Worcestershire, and he's had sort of 10 years of relative success or major success with Worcestershire. I think what he's done is he's brought his sort of knowledge of how to cope with that situation and taught the guys through the mental side of the game and sort of coping with the pressures of that. And I think they're the biggest pluses that have come out of Phil's appointment.
Alan Donald was back for Lara as the overseas player. Donald with much to prove after being told a month earlier that Lara would be offered a long-term contract at Edgbaston, not the fast bowler.
They wanted a 3-year contract for Brian Lara, and really forced our hand a little bit. But I can remember that conversation after we'd done it, ringing up Alan Donald when he was on tour with the South African side in New Zealand, and he was just absolutely distraught. And it wasn't an easy thing to do. It was early in the morning. Bobby Woolmer said, "I've got Alan Donald on the phone for you, want him?" And there was just silence at the other end of the phone, and you wonder what you've done. You know, you cut somebody off in their prime. However, you know, that was a committee decision and it was made, and that was the way we've got to get on with it.
Nick Knight had been signed from Essex. That looked a shrewd move. Knight had just returned from a successful tour of India with the England A squad, and his runs at the top of the order would help to offset the loss of Lara, even though the West Indian maestro was irreplaceable.
You mentioned in the same breath as Brian Lara was something very different for me, and I never even saw it that way. I saw it as myself and something that I have to come and do. And, you know, I knew if I played well and I did my stuff, then it would be good for Warwickshire. And it was never really a comparison with trying to get anywhere near Lara's runs.
He's always right in there in the front with his opinions, and he's not shy on the field either to come up and offer his suggestions to me. And he thinks about his cricket and could be a future captain in the making, Nick Knight.
And the general feeling was that Warwickshire would be difficult to beat in the Championship because of their strength in seam bowling, but that runs might be hard to come by. To outsiders, a one-day trophy seemed to be the height of Warwickshire's ambitions.
95, are we going to do it without Lara? It was on the words on everyone's lips. So the guys were a bit upset last year, and the comments on a lot of the national press was, Warwickshire. And so that got up the guys' noses somewhat, and so that we were out to prove that it wasn't that was definitely not the case.
But as the new faces bedded down at Edgbaston, there was a conviction outside the county that Warwickshire were just one-season wonders. A mauling in the 4-day game against England A suggested an air of complacency.
Pre-season, everyone was playing so well, and they came back, and I think they just forgot what they had to do to win. You know what I mean? Everyone's playing well, but you can easily suddenly get out, and you start losing games.
Defeat against England A might be regarded as a minor blip, but a damaging defeat in April at Trent Bridge in the Benson Hedges Cup, that was cause for rather more concern.
In the field and with the ball, it wasn't a great performance, but we got in a situation with the bat where we still should have won the game, and we then sort of threw that away and lost a game, which we should never have lost, and that sort of, jolted a few people.
Well, victory over Durham kept Warwickshire's hopes alive in the B&H, but they were soon dashed with a poor performance against Lancashire. The visitors' 305 for the loss of just 2 wickets was always going to be too much for the home side. But in the Championship, things began well for Warwickshire. They beat Middlesex by 215 in the first game. That proved a very significant win by the end of the summer. 2 players made a particular impression. Nick Knight made 85 and 72. And Alan Donald took 6 for 56 in the first innings, the first of many superb performances this season.
It was a great start to the season, but we didn't really know how important that win would have been. Right at the beginning. So I mean, to beat them and knowing that they're going to chase us all season was just, made it a phenomenal season anyway.
Then victory over Surrey in the Championship, this time by 91 runs. It was a personal triumph for Dominic Osler. He made 208 out of Warwickshire's first innings of 470.
Very good win that early on in the season. I think everybody got a few runs. We had runs on the board, and the bowlers came through, and we bowled them out quite easily.
But it was victory at a cost. Alan Donald, having taken 6 wickets in the first innings, he limped off after 1 over in the second, and it was later diagnosed he had a broken toe. So he missed the next 2 championship matches, and with Tim Munton recovering from back surgery, the onus now was very much on Gladstone Small.
I was generally feeling good and top of my game. In actual fact, in one of the earlier games against Lancashire, the skip, England skipper, Mike Athers, he had a word. He said, here you're bowling well in the Championship, keep it going, you never know what could happen. That type of stuff was quite encouraging.
Well, after the 2 championship wins at Edgbaston, Warwickshire went to Old Trafford to play Lancashire. Now, this was going to be a crucial couple of games. Lancashire, one of the form sides in the competition, one of the most dangerous sides in English county cricket. They'd won 6 out of 6 in all competitions at that stage. Soon it was 8 out of 8. Lancashire winning the Sunday League match by 5 wickets and the 10th championship game by 6 wickets. Although Warwickshire were right there at the top of the table, comparisons with their treble-winning year were less favourable. In '94, they only lost 5 matches in all competitions, and yet by mid-May in '95, they'd already lost 6. They also faced something of an injury crisis for the next match, when they christened Durham's new ground at Chester Street. No Donald, or Munton, or Small.
At the start of the season, there were so many people in front of me. I couldn't have envisaged the season going the way it's gone for me. I realised if I was to get in the team, there was a lot of people I had to either push out the side by playing well myself, or there had to be some injuries. Obviously no one really likes teammates getting injured, but as it happened, there were a couple of injuries. Tim was injured, Glad he was fit to start with, and Alan got injured, so there was opportunities for me.
All the young players have come good since we've lost a few guys early season. We haven't had Gladstone for quite a while, but guys like Dougie Brown and Dominic Osler and Trevor Penny is playing very well, and that's what we need for the young players to come through. And I think we've got a bit of depth in the side, so which is always good.
Well, despite the loss of key players, Warwickshire beat Durham by 111 runs and they moved up to 2nd place in the Championship. Now, Gladstone Small came back for the game against Somerset. Dermot Reed won the toss, put them in, and Warwickshire struggled for a day and a half. Somerset made 495, rather laboriously. Dickie Davis, the spinner, he was the best bowler with 3 for 77. Now, Trevor Penny had struggled a little bit lately after making 88 against Middlesex in the opening championship game of the season. Now, against Somerset, Warwickshire needed runs and quickly to have any chance of forcing victory.
I might have been dropped if I hadn't had the runs that game. So it was really important against Mushtaq as well, which you can get out at any time to him, I think. So I was really pleased with that.
Declarations by both sides eventually set Warwickshire a winning total of 301 off 80 overs. A good target for the likes of Andy Moles, who had scored 4 50s in his last 6 championship innings.
It was a good declaration, but unfortunately we lost a couple of early wickets, and I was fortunate enough to be able to play, you know, very well, even by my standards really. But Dougie Brown came in at the end and got 30 valuable runs that when really if we hadn't have done, we could have easily have just lost that one. And as the season's worked out, every win's been vital.
Warwickshire reached the target against Somerset with 7 balls to spare, so that made it 3 wins out of 3 in the championship at Edgbaston. The next home game, though, was a different affair. This was against Sussex, and it was rare to see Warwickshire have to occupy the entire day in the field. Sussex established a lead of 112, and with valuable time lost to the weather on Saturday, Warwickshire were up against it. Roger Toos dug in, scored a valuable century. He averted defeat. Warwickshire set Sussex 220 to get in 32 overs, which they declined, and the game drifted into a draw. It was also the only championship match of the season that Warwickshire could use the trio of Donald, Munton and Small.
First month obviously was a sort of a case of feeling my way back into it. It was obviously a major blow to me to have surgery on my back, and it's not something you can take lightly. And it was a slow process initially to sort of get back into the swing of things. And once I actually got myself in a state where I felt I was fit to play first team cricket, it took me probably 3 weeks to a month to get properly going. And then after that I was quite happy with the way I bowled. I thought I bowled as well then as I did in '94.
Well, the sight of the Yorkshire White Rose always seems to inspire Alan Donald. He averages over 4 wickets an innings against them. He was the scourge again this season when they were skittled out for 96 on the first day of the championship match at Edgbaston. Their lowest total in 6 years. They must have been hoping, come back Lara.
Maybe this one side that you've got some sort of jinx on that, you know, for some reason you come and play against them, you take 10 in a game or 8 in a game, and for that, you know, for that particular game, I think I got 8 in the match, and then picked up 6 in the Sunday League game here, which I've never felt that great in my life in a one-day game.
With a game in hand, Warwickshire trailed Northants by 43 points, but before they could reduce that deficit, there was a potentially tough first-round fixture against Somerset in the NatWest, the only trophy to have eluded them last year. 178 for the first wicket was just the start that Warwickshire wanted, and Nick Knight went on to score 151, and there were those who doubted his abilities as a one-day player.
I didn't really do very well in one-day cricket at Essex. It wasn't something I felt confident with. I didn't really feel I had a game plan. I wasn't really sure how I was going to score my runs. But having come here to undoubtedly the place to learn your one-day cricket, I feel I've learned so much so quickly, and I feel now I've got some idea about what I'm doing.
Well, 357 was a massive total for Somerset to chase, but they failed by just 18 runs. There was another casualty, though, for Warwickshire, Andy Moles, who'd be out for the season.
I believe what actually happened is when I was training at Coventry last year, I think I got a little bit of stud pressure from the football boots I was wearing, and during the year it sort of just niggled on, and then the actual foot, when it really went, I tore my Achilles tendon.
Well, Warwickshire kept up the pressure on Northants in the championship with 2 away wins. The first, a 10-wicket win at Ilford, built around another outstanding performance by Donald, and centuries from Osler and Penny.
They bowled well. It was quite a turning wicket, but it was one of those days where, you know, we carried on and we played very well to get I think we both got 100 apiece.
Gooch and that, I've always felt, you know, you get sides where you think they're always chirping you, and they always sort of get on top of me, or they always have. And I went in there and I just had my game plan. I was just going to attack them from the start. Wherever there wasn't a fielder, I was going to hit it there. And it seemed to come off.
When you're batting with Trevor, it's very easy to rotate the strike because he picks up singles where there aren't any. So it's always ticking over, and that upsets the fielders as well, and the bowlers.
Just as important were Neil Smith's 5 wickets, as Essex were dismissed for 219, and Warwickshire won by 10 wickets.
We were always going to find it difficult away from home, or we thought we'd find it difficult with Andy, Donald,
wickets. So I thought I'd get my opportunity there. And the first one really was Ilford, where it did turn. And I struggled a little bit because I hadn't bowled a great number of overs, and I struggled to find a rhythm. But I still came out the game with 7 or 8 wickets.
Warwickshire trailed Northants now by just 19 points, with Middlesex a further 17 away in 3rd place. The next round of matches would be crucial. At Old Trafford, Northants lost to Lancashire following 6 straight wins, and the Bears rolled over a tame Leicestershire side inside 2 days. Reeve and Munton, the dominant bowlers, and Neil Smith, batting at number 9, top scoring with 67. Halfway through the 1995 season, it was clear that the strengths of the side were different from those of '94. After 9 championship matches in 1994, Warwickshire had scored 13 hundreds, 7 of them from Brian Lara, and they'd also scored 13 half-centuries. At the similar stage, in 1995, the tally was 6 hundreds and 26 50s. That's a fair reflection of the contribution made by all the Warwickshire batsmen in 1995.
I definitely encourage them to think for themselves when they're out in the middle, communicate with their fellow partner and their other batsmen out in the middle. But yeah, what people won't get at Warwickshire, they won't get hold over the coals if they try to say hit the bowler over his head and get caught at mid-on if it looks like the right option at the time.
I think they believe in themselves. Several times this year it's been interesting for me to get to see the players and get to know about the players, and they've been in tight finishes where I've not been sure whether they've got what it takes to win in close situations, but they obviously have, and that winning habit is something all sides try and gain, and it's an unknown quantity. You never know quite what you do to achieve it, but once you do get that ability to win from any situation, it's a vital thing for any team, and these guys certainly do know how to win.
I'm watching them on the telly. In the Bensons, they actually look quite an average side in the field.
Well, that belief was amply demonstrated when they played Kent in the NatWest for the 3rd year running, and they duly completed the treble over them. Despite various stumbles in the Warwickshire innings, the home side reached 262, twos leading the way with 93. Trevor Ward's 68 and Steve Marsh's 55 were never quite enough, and Warwickshire went through by 10 runs. And with Alan Donald in such devastating form and Tim Munton beginning to approach his peak, it was now becoming a familiar pattern that the pitches away from home seemed to be designed to thwart Warwickshire's pace attack. That was certainly the case at Cardiff, and yet Glamorgan, they were rolled over inside 2 days.
It was typical of a lot of the pitches we played on away from home, and we seem to have, I think, 3 or 4 games in a row that we played away from home, at Cardiff, at Leicester, at Ilford, particularly where, quite rightly, the opposition prepared a real slow wicket with it that they thought might turn in an attempt to nullify Alan Donald, basically. But, Alan and I at the time were having sort of quite a run. Both of us were taking wickets consistently. I started to swing the ball and was bowling well. And yeah, at Cardiff particularly, it did swing quite nicely, and I think we bowled them out for 120, 130, and it was a great position to be in.
People have said it, no wonder Warwickshire win championships playing on wickets like Edgbaston. The fact is, we got a better away record than a home record over the last 2 seasons. We were undefeated last year away from home. This year we've only lost to Lancashire away, and we've won in 2 days, or 2 days and a bit, at Essex, Leicester, Cardiff, on wickets which were, not meant to suit Alan Donald. But the fact is, he's so quick through the air, he gets people out through just sheer speed as opposed to what's in the wicket for him.
But what about the pitches at Edgbaston? Were they up to the required standard? Now, many on the county circuit didn't think so, a view reinforced by 2 substandard pitches in international games at Edgbaston, Test match against the West Indies and England A against Young Australia. But only two of the county pitches were marked below average by the umpires throughout the season in championship matches, and in one of them, against Surrey, more than 1,200 runs were scored. The pitches at Edgbaston strayed just within the bounds of respectability, but away from home, Warwickshire were just as impressive.
We've had a lot of criticism about our wickets at Edgbaston, but we've gone and won 7 at home, 7 away from home. We've gone and got as many batting points at home, or near enough, home and away, and as many bowling points home and away, so there's hardly any difference.
Our performances away from home are equally as good as they have been at home, and quite frankly, if you have somebody of the pace and ability of Alan Donald, you can play him on your drawing room carpet and you're still going to beat him, I think. Alan blasted too many people out for their own peace of mind, and then they had to look for 1 or 2 excuses, I think.
Warwickshire's win against Glamorgan sent them to the top of the table, and with 7 games to go, the championship looked like a 3-horse race. The match against Northants at Edgbaston was shaping up to be a championship decider. But as an advertisement for the 4-day game, it couldn't really be better, with both sides holding sway at various stages throughout the match. The first day, though, was marginally Warwickshire's. Northants 76 for 6 at lunch, all out 152, but they hit back towards the end, Warwickshire closing on 159 for 6, with Roger Two's unbeaten on 98. Cumberley and Capel were in devastating form, but couldn't prevent Two's completing his 13th first-class 100. He would have carried his bat through a completed innings for the first time in his career, but for Cumberley and Capel, who combined to take the final wicket as Warwickshire finished with a first innings lead of 72. Thereafter, the match was dominated by the 2 overseas players. Donald bowled unchanged for 2 hours on the second day, as Northants clawed their way back into contention.
It was pretty warm. I think, in fact, I bowled 39 overs in the second innings. I was absolutely exhausted before the season started. I got fitter and stronger, and I think you know, that's what's probably helped me through the season, because I had a lot more stamina than you know, like before all the other seasons.
I mean, AD's developed virtually every year he's been with us. He's got better and better over the years. He came to us as a very quick, very raw 18-year-old, and he's gradually sort of improved and improved. I think this year we're getting close as you'll get to seeing the finished article. He's bowled with as much pace as he ever has, but with a lot more control. And he's done it throughout the season, whereas early on in his career he used to do it in a bit of sort of fits and starts. This year, every single game he's played, he's bowled magnificently.
We all call him Magic Munted, workhorse, call him what you like. He takes the pressure off me trying to knock people over, but he always keeps the pressure on the other end, because he swings it in, he swings it out. And believe it or not, Muntz can bowl a bouncer, and he's got people out like that. But he's such a great asset to our side, because he just loves bowling. Durham is actually quite scared to take him off, because he knows he's going to be grumpy, and he does get grumpy. He just wants to keep going, because, you know, at the end of the day, he's bowled 30-odd overs, 40 overs in an innings, and he gets you 6 for or 5 for every time.
Northants eventually declared on the 3rd day on 345 for 9, thanks to Alan Fordham's century and Russell Warren's 70. Warwickshire was soon deep in trouble at 53 for 6, but they staged a remarkable comeback through Dermot Reeve and Neil Smith.
Dermot and I got together, and it was just a matter of trying to sort of stop the rot initially, and then after a while we started to try and take the game to them, and it worked very well. And unfortunately I got out on the last morning, and that sort of changed the format of the game. We were going very well then, Dermot and I.
Smith's 75 was his highest score of the season, and with Dermot Reeve followed him back to the pavilion with a score on 228, Warwickshire needed 47 to win, with the last pair at the crease.
It's quite interesting, you number 10 and 11 batters, you get the mickey taken out of your year because you lack of ability, yet when it gets tight, go on Tim, you can do it. It always makes me laugh.
I was always quite confident going out there, and keep saying to Muntz, you know, if we can get within striking distance here, they're going to panic, because they were very chirpy out there, the game's theirs, and we're not so hot, whatever. After all, that's what Blamey kept on chirping at mid-off.
We put on 30-odd runs, and all of a sudden the belief was around Edgbaston we were going to win the game.
We got within 7 or 9 runs, and they were dead quiet out there. Really, really could feel the atmosphere. Capel came on to bowl. I thought, just watch the ball really hard, just don't try anything stupid, and you know, you can't blame him. I mean, he saw a straight ball, tried to whip it, and he was LBW. It just sunk right through me. I thought, oh no, that could be the championship, just gone there.
I think Alan Lamb is quoted as saying it's the best game of cricket he's ever played in county championship cricket, and it was certainly a game that sort of ebbed and flowed. It went one way, then the other.
It was like a test match, a very tight test match. And to come that close after being in trouble for most of the second innings was a great achievement by us.
If Warwickshire had beaten Northants in that titanic match, their lead in the championship would have been more than 30 points. And with just 6 games to go, that would have been a very, very difficult target to pull back. But now the championship was wide open again, and immediately after that defeat, Warwickshire faced a potentially tough match at Derby against Derbyshire in the NatWest quarter-finals. But in the one-day game, Warwickshire were going through a fantastic spell of 10 straight wins.
One of the biggest sort of sides of a team's character is how they come back after a setback, and we did it 2 or 3 times in '94, so we knew it was within our capabilities to come back from a disappointment like that and to play the game at Derby, which again was a massive game. They're a very dangerous one-day side, not the most consistent side, but they've got dangerous batters and dangerous bowlers, so we knew it wasn't going to be easy. And we ran up a nice big total. So you go out to bowl as a batting lineup like the Derbyshire side, chasing a big total, expecting a few shots to be played, and for some reason or other they decided to block me at one end, and I picked up a couple of wickets as well, and it was a great day for me and a good result at the end of the day.
8 of Warwickshire's one-day wins had been in the Sunday League, a competition in which they got off to a terrible start. They lost their first 3 games in a row, but by the start of August they were just 2 points behind the leaders, Essex, with a game in hand. And one of their crucial victories at that stage was against Glamorgan, the then leaders, at Cardiff. At the time, Warwickshire was 6 points adrift of the leaders. Nick Knight provided the bulk of the side's 190 on the day he received his England call-up, and once again it was the team's self-belief that carried the day.
Whilst we performed exceptionally well and put the pressure on, kept the pressure on all the way through, you know, they bottled it, to be honest. And we just never gave up. It was never say die, and we felt that we got a reasonable score, a goodish score, but it was never going to be exceptional. And we felt that if we kept the pressure on and did bowl the way we can bowl, then we always had a good chance. And I think we believed that all the way through, and I'm not sure they believed it. And I think that was maybe the difference.
By the time Warwickshire went to play Notts in the Sunday League, the destiny of the title was in their hands. They trailed the leaders Kent by 2 points, but with a game in hand. The target was 218, and Warwickshire kept up with the rate, thanks mainly to Dougie Brown's 78 not out.
I was batting 8 at the start of the season, and I was playing quite well. And Dermot just suggested one day, do you fancy batting 4? And I said, of course I do. So I went out and I played. I don't think I got any runs, but I think Dermot's quite happy with the balance of the side the way it was. And I remained at 4 in one-day cricket. And then in Championship cricket, I moved up the order, batted at 6 and then at 5, and got some runs in both games, one-day cricket and Championship cricket.
Piper's got it through. Those are winning runs. It'll go all the way for 4.
Warwickshire's title hopes were dashed, though, the very next weekend, when in a desperately tight finish at New Road, they lost to their local rivals Worcestershire by just 2 runs. That brought to an end an incredible record of one-day wins, 14 in a row.
Obviously, early on when we lost the first 3 on the trot was a major blow, and we still believed we could win it, but it was going to be very difficult from then on. And then to have actually got so close and to go to Worcester with a top-of-the-table clash. And having been in such a good position, obviously it was very disappointing to come away without the victory. We were only chasing about 160, and we were 50 for 1 off 6, 7, 8 overs, something like that. So it was very disappointing, but we learned from that.
With only 3 matches to go, Warwickshire needed one of their rivals to slip up. But in the penultimate game against Derbyshire, rain came when Derbyshire were 81 for 5, so all hopes of the treble were washed away. There was consolation in the final victory over the winners Kent, which ensured that Warwickshire finished second, denied the title only by an inferior scoring rate.
We actually had 2 very close one-day games against Durham at Chesley Street, where we lost by 2 runs, and then Worcestershire we lost by 2 runs as well. So you could say we've only got ourselves to blame, but you get a lot of close finishes in one-day cricket, and a couple of them we just ended up on the wrong side, which seemed to be the difference.
Well, the Sunday League may have slipped away, but the NatWest and the Championship were going very much the Bears' way. Hampshire at one stage were as high as 4th in the table, but by the time Warwickshire travelled to Southampton, they were nearer last than first, and this would see them go no higher. As ever, Donnell led the way as the home side were dismissed for 225, and then Wasim Khan fulfilled all his promise with a magnificent 181, as he, Piper and Penny saw Warwickshire to 535 and a massive first innings lead.
Wasim's is a fine player, and what he has got is he knows his areas that he needs to work on, and he doesn't place shots in those areas. He's very, very good strength of mind, and he's had a great year.
The biggest help for me this year has been Andy Moles. I mean, ironically, it's probably been his place that I've taken, but he's been great. He's encouraged me every time and sort of, you know, rung me up and gave me advice. And I mean, everyone else has been great. Roger Toos has helped me a lot, and I mean, all the guys have just been superb in trying to help me along.
Neil Smith took 6 for 72 in Hampshire's second innings to ensure that Warwickshire once again won within 3 days.
I think when you're in the middle of a sort of a hot spell like we had this summer, I mean, there's no doubt about it, it was a great summer for cricket, but it was also a very tiring summer, particularly for bowlers. I mean, you bowl sort of 25 overs in a day in the heat that we had this year. It was very tiring, and to sort of get games over in 3 days particularly, and make sure you had sort of 2 days rest each week was very important.
But this time there was only 1 day off as Warwickshire headed to Wales to play Glamorgan in the NatWest semi-final at Cardiff. Now Glamorgan were a dangerous side in one-day cricket. They were quietly fancied to win the semi-final, but nobody could have predicted after Glamorgan won the toss about the hectic mayhem that followed in the 2.5 hours before lunch.
We knew it was going to be a big game, but I think at the end of the day the pressure hit Glamorgan in a huge way. They sort of built it up as such a massive day's cricket for them, which I suppose it was, and it was to us as well, but they really weren't used to that. And at the end of the day, the pressure they put on themselves, they were at the ground at 7:30 in the morning, they had a 3-hour team meeting the night before, and as the game unfolded, that pressure just sort of, they weren't able to cope with it.
It was Munton, during an opening spell that used up his full quota, who ensured the pressure was firmly on the home side. 12 overs, 2 for just 18, inspired captaincy.
And he usually only bowls about 8 overs to start off with, but he bowled so well early on there and in the quarter-final Dermot left him on, and he bowls his 12 overs for next to nothing, and straight away the pressure's on, and then they have to start playing shots.
That's out.
2 down with just 12 on the board, and then the penny factor came into play.
Stranded, but and out. What a throw from Penny.
I saw in the back of my mind that he had started running and the other guy hadn't. But I didn't really look up, and I just picked up and threw without waiting. Where sometimes I miss when I'm actually waiting. You've got time, you're thinking about it and stuff. And it was much better to just hit middle stump.
Well, that's out, and Munton's done it. Connie really had to see him off, and that was all, but he played a sort of half-hearted attacking shot, and Piper gets another victim. And this really is a match-winning performance by Tim Munton, and he acknowledges well-deserved applause. 2 for 18 of 12.
Trevor Penny again. That's great work from Trevor Penny.
I love it when a plan comes together, but I talked to Trevor ceaselessly about, come on, let's have some practice, because it could turn a game for us. And then when the semi-final went as it did in the NatWest, and he had 2 run-outs in the first 20 overs, I was perfect.
Neil Smith had bowled about 3 or 4 good overs at him, and he kept pushing it to extra there and to backward. And I kept coming in closer and closer. I knew what he was going to try and do, and eventually pushed it in the middle.
Hit hard into the ground by David Hemp. It's not, again, it's indecision.
Everyone said I should have thrown the other end, but it was actually Hemp running to that side, which would have been the better wicket. I think Croft was the other batsman, and Neil Smith took it well, because he wasn't actually behind the stumps properly.
Bowled in.
Glamorgan 86 all out off 47 overs, a superb limited overs performance in which everyone had played a part.
People say to me, Dermot, what makes a good captain? And the best thing that makes a good captain is having a good side out there. We've played a lot of very good cricket this year. We've got a very good spirit. I think in county cricket, in English cricket, it's important for sides to focus on, you know, winning the game, playing for each other, trying to get rid of the fear of failure aspect. If people go out there thinking they're playing for their job, their livelihood, and that puts pressure on them, and if coaches put pressure on players, I don't think they're going to perform at their optimum.
They will be bitterly disappointed. And there is a reverse sweep to finish it all, and so Warwickshire win.
Just as Warwickshire were winning at Cardiff, so too in the other semi-final were the championship leaders Northants. They missed out on the next round of championship matches, so the Bears or Middlesex had a chance to go top. Warwickshire won their match at Trent Bridge in a canter. The 2 heroes, Magic Munton with 2 5-wicket hauls, and Trevor Penny with his 3rd century of the season and other matters on his mind.
My wife had just gone into labour, so I was pretty relaxed. I wasn't really thinking about the cricket. So, and that must probably be my best innings, because everyone said to me afterwards, she's like, they want a baby.
Now, to win the county championship, you need luck, you need good players, you need key contributions from those good players, and then you need some more luck to lift the title. Warwickshire have got that. They do seem to be able to turn games around when they're up against it. And it's in the dressing room here where they forge that team spirit. I think one of the reasons why the team spirit is so good, because they actually enjoy each other's company.
You don't really experience other sides dressing rooms to the full, but when we travel around the county, you sort of get a feel for how the teams sort of react to each other. And I don't really notice any other sides where everybody gets on quite as well as we do. And I think it's a big sort of credit to everybody in the side and everybody at the club.
For Essex was good and I enjoyed myself there, but to come here and be part of this setup and socialise with the guys and on and off the pitch, everyone talks to each other, and you know, it's a great atmosphere for doing well. And it's, you know, you get up in the morning and actually look forward to coming in the dressing room, you know, and it sets the tone for the day. It's brilliant.
5 of the last 6 championship matches have been away from home, and it was with some relief that Warwickshire came back to Edgbaston to face Worcestershire. It brought a change of luck also for Dermot Reeve, the captain. He won the toss. The first time in 7 championship matches he'd done so. He elected to bat, and for only the second time in 11 weeks, the match went to the 4th day on the Monday. Roger Toos was in magnificent form. His 191, the centrepiece of Warwickshire's first innings total of 462, which set up a victory by 10 wickets. The bowling honours went to Ashley Giles, 5 for 23, and Neil Smith, 5 for 162, as Worcestershire fought back to make the champions bat again.
We can alter our attack depending on the wickets, and it means people don't generally get over bowled. As I said before, Alan Donald will bowl well on anything, and if it turns my back at the minute, Neil Smith and Ashley Giles to bowl people out when it spins. I've always got Roger Toos up my sleeve if I feel that I'm going to get through too many overs, and it's worked well. There's been a good balance this year.
Warwickshire were now 5 points behind Middlesex and 6 ahead of Northants, so round 15 of the championship would be crucial as Warwickshire's rivals faced each other at Uxbridge and the Bears played host to an out-of-form Gloucestershire. Although the first day at Edgbaston was lost to rain, the match was over by day 3. Warwickshire made 275, Carnes 68, and solid middle-order contributions from Penny, Brown and Reeve. The visitors showed little aptitude for a prolonged stay. They were hustled out for 124, Donald taking his usual 5 wickets, and Piper 6 catches behind the stumps. Second time round, and Gloucestershire did marginally better, but even so, Warwickshire won by 10 wickets for the 3rd time in a row. They were back at the top of the table, and for more than just 48 hours, as their rivals battled out a draw at Uxbridge. But there was more than just the championship to think about. For the 3rd year in succession, Warwickshire were contesting the NatWest final, which, as it did last year, went into a 2nd day. As last year, Warwickshire lost the toss, but on this occasion they batted second. Donald soon struck.
First strike, and Richard Montgomery goes, and Alan Donald has struck. 4 for 1.
That's it. I'm sure we'll receive him. Inside edge, back onto the stumps. Alan Fordham goes just when Northants were getting things going again after the early setback of losing Montgomery.
I wasn't at all nervous, which was surprising. We possibly may have been if we started on time, but it's just like playing, strangely, it's just like playing in any other game. Because we've played in a few big games this season already, it didn't seem any different.
Alan Lamb, the new batsman, Northants captain, and he's having a great season.
He came in and played the first couple of shots and it looked like he tried to hit the ball at the park. I thought if we could get the ball in the right place, because the ball was doing a little bit down the hill, I thought if we get it in the right place there might be a chance he could nick it or do something to get himself out. And luckily enough the ball was in the right type of place. It went a bit down the hill and he nicked it to slip.
And he's gone for a naught. It's well caught. It went at sharp pace, but he flashed at that one, and Dougie Brown has him for naught, caught by Dominic Ostler at slip. And that is a crushing blow for Northamptonshire.
That's a really important wicket for Warwickshire. And the great thing for Dominic Ostler, he was in exactly the right position. He's the lone slip, but he's stood wide. Quite often happens that when there's just one slip there in one-day cricket, he goes that bit wider. A lovely, comfortable catch for him.
We'd realised the wicket was slow, and to take pace off the ball was going to be crucial to us. We felt the Northamptonshire batsmen allowed Neil Smith particularly to bowl, and Neil certainly bowled according to the way the two batsmen were playing him. And no, it was a crucial spell, and it built tremendous pressure on them.
Oh! There's a lowish bounce. There's that one there. Rob Bailey stayed back, and it went about halfway up his back. Yeah! It's out. It's out. A slow loop. A thrash off the back foot. Inside edge. And another one goes. That's the second wicket that's gone down. Off an inside edge.
Off. Yes. Keeper walks.
I felt we always took wickets at important times as well. Just as they got a partnership really established, we'd chip somebody out and they'd have to start all over again.
Defeated into pace, and that has made things extremely difficult now for Northamptonshire. Curran out bowled by Donald for 30 from 80 balls gives you an idea of the pressure that's been put on Northants at the moment.
The first 40 overs I actually didn't touch the ball much, and I was thinking to myself, oh no, I'm not going to do anything. No one's going to talk about my fielding this game, which goes through your mind quite often. And Warren sort of pushed it down square to belly, and I was at backward point.
Oh, took it in. Has he got him? As for the replay, it's Trevor Penny again.
He went off straight away, and luckily I went off straight away as well, and sort of picked it up and sort of had 1.5 stumps to hit, and I hit it. And it was very close. I wasn't sure, but I sort of acted as though it was well out.
And he's gone. There we are. Tony Penberthy. Stranded if he hits.
Yes, and Jeremy Stay, he realises runs are important. He's trying to get young Warren on strike. He's pushing it, and he's off running as soon as he makes contact with the middle of the bat. But as you can see, he's bounced over the top, actually.
Well, I think he's fingertipped it. But did he fingertip it over the rope? He's not going to know. It's a Dorothy Dix.
Well, that total of 200 gives Northants some sort of chance.
Contact. High in the air, there's a man under it, and that will be caught. And so with just 2 balls to come in the innings, he goes caught 2's bull bell for 2, 200 for 9.
Started to get some runs. That's the last wicket to Michael Bell, the Northants.
It wasn't the easiest wicket to bat on. I think when Northants had only made 200, I was confident. I felt that if we played well, we'll get these, and I thought they bowled very well. I thought Kevin Curran and Paul Taylor with the new ball got the ball in the right area. We were 3 for 28, but we were 3 for 28 off a lot of overs. I think 17 or 18 overs. So it wasn't from there on in going to be easy.
Northamptonshire, to their credit, bowled brilliantly. I thought they maintained pressure for a long period of time. Better than I could have expected them to do, and we found out the wicket was getting slower, which we hadn't anticipated it would lose as much pace as that. We thought it would be fairly consistent throughout, so we were in with a very difficult situation.
I thought he'd be very disappointed about that. He made good ground to it, got his hands to it, and it may have been the jolt of hitting the ground that knocked it out. And there's no doubt about that. Dougie Brown has gone. Quarter of the wicket by Russell Warren for 8. The 8 for 3 at the moment. Not even Curran skirting around a deep cover point can get hold of that.
Roger Tooth and I were playing, and we just wanted to rotate the strike a bit. There were no big shots needed. and so singles were of the utmost importance. It was that slight situation where you're feeling good, hitting the odd boundary, but the run rate's always going up, and you need to hit that extra one and over just to try and bring it down a bit. You don't really want to get up to 4s and 5s and 6s when it's only 3s at the start.
Always dropped him. That's the one. That is that brilliant, well, it's a sort of a flipper.
I saw the ball pitch and I thought, oh, back foot, just chip it round the corner, and before you know it, the middle stump's lying on the floor. I was very upset when I got out, but I always thought when I got out, we're still in with an exceptional chance here because of the only minimal amount of runs they got.
Back onto the stumps. And that was just a fraction away.
Bob Woolmer ran from South Africa and we were about 4 down, and I said, well, someone's going to have to play well from here to win the game for us. And they duly did. I mean, it was with a low total. It's a case of having the bottle just to stay there, and Roger Twos was magnificent. Trevor Penny played a good little knock, and then Dermot coming in alongside Roger. I mean, their history is that they've won games in tight situations, but they've won many in more difficult situations than that.
Get rounded by lofting away over the infield. That's the sort of risk they have to take once it gets up to 6 and over.
I never felt it was going horribly wrong, apart from Kumble's first over, where I backed myself to try and sweep Kumble hard to the short boundary, and I couldn't get a bat on it. But Dickie's been a great umpire over the years. He has erred. If you talk to bowlers, he's what we call in the game a bit of a not-outer. If there's a decision which is there could be a slight bit of benefit for the batsman, Dickie gives it to the batsman. The good thing about Dickie, he is consistent. With the advantage of replays, you can tell it missed my front pad and hit me on the back, plumb in front. But you know, Dickie hasn't got the advantage of replays. No umpires do on LBWs, and you know, I'd have been disappointed to be given at the time.
I think that's one that the batsman got away with there.
6.27 the asking rate. And the tension's mounting out there. It's a half-century for Roger Twos. Farewell innings in this competition, and a nice way to go out. He's played very well at a time when Warwickshire was struggling.
It was the longest 60 overs I've ever spent in the change room, watching dot ball after dot ball and scraping for a run or a boundary. The tense, you know, the situation in the dressing room was just tense, very, very tense for 60 overs.
When I was in with Roger, just discussing when are we going to put the foot on the accelerator and go positive, and Roger just kept saying to me, this over I'm going positive, Skip. I said, fine, great, go positive, but don't get out. And he played very well. You know, he found it quite difficult early on, but he stayed there, took the responsibility on, and then when he went into positive mode, he scored quickly.
Roger had a very good game again. He calculates one-day cricket very, very well in a run-chase situation. He knows if he's there, he can play in that situation. And really that's been his big success the last 2 years, where he gets the side into a situation, he assesses what has to be done, and more often than not, he converts it into a win.
We felt that Kumble was going to come back for 3 overs, and if we had to pick 2 batsmen to be at the crease when he came back, it would have been Twos and Reeve. And they obviously had an over where they decided they were going to have to try and reverse sweep or mess him about, and it proved unsuccessful. A narrow scale, I think we probably got 1 run off the over. And then you're faced with probably seeing off his last over and trying to score the runs at the other end.
In his last over, I managed to get a reverse sweep in, which went for 4, which was nice, and I think we got 7 off that over. But I just felt while Roger and I were in, it was crucial we didn't lose a wicket and have a new batter in against Kumble, and I actually backed myself to score off him.
I think the reverse sweep, when Dermot managed to reverse sweep Kumble, that was just about the nail in the coffin, because he certainly believed that we could win from there. And Northamptonshire, it must have been a bit of a killer blow to them, because their key bowler had just been masted, albeit for 1-4, but it came at a crucial stage.
Clause extends around the ground for the 50 partnership, which is threatening to be a winning partnership. Oh, back keeping. Oh, they call for the third umpire. Well, it'd be incredible if a wicket comes from some poor keeping like that.
Well, I think the batsman thinks he's out. Roger Twos backing up. I mean, he thought he'd sneaked an easy run with a fumble by the keeper.
And there the ball is thrown in and the batsman's not in sight. Well, well, well.
Once Roger was out, Dermot played some magnificent shots, timed the ball as sweetly as he has done all season.
If you've been in a while, you're more likely to find the middle of your bat. So I try to take on the responsibility for myself to be there at the end. In the end, it works. It won't always work. Every now and again, I'll get out in that situation and it'll put pressure on someone coming in. But it's worked enough times for me to keep that ploy.
Fine shot. Beautifully played.
In the one-day games particularly, to my mind, he's probably got one of the, if not the best, one of the best cricket brains in the world in one-day cricket.
And again, right between that gap, it's not such a small gap. And that might get there. It does. 2 runs to win, and Warwickshire virtually there. That's it. Well, you can't win a match with more style than that.
Northampton will have many regrets about this match. Drop catches, deciding to bat first, but the chance was there to be taken, and Warwickshire once again showed that extra will, led as ever from the front by their captain, who collected his 3rd NatWest Final Man of the Match award.
Although Warwickshire's Sunday League hopes disappeared down the drain when rain forced a no result in the game against Derbyshire, the weather, on the other hand, in the Championship was proving an extra card in Warwickshire's deck. 2 games to go, and victory in the next one against Derbyshire at Edgbaston could conceivably settle the title. The first day was lost to the weather. The second saw Derbyshire dismissed for 268, and the following day was also Warwickshire's as they gained a first innings lead of 119, courtesy of yet another 100 from Penny that made him the first Warwickshire player to pass 1,000 runs. But then the match was sealed by a Donald spell, the like of which hadn't been seen before.
I've bowled some quick spells, but I don't think I've ever bowled that quickly in my life. I was so charged up inside here because I know that this is it. This is the Championship could be over in this spell.
By lunchtime on the Monday, the game was won. And then an anxious wait watching Ceefax. Middlesex had to beat Leicestershire to keep the Championship race alive.
All the boys were at Edgbaston. We've been told to come back for 5:30 just in case Leicestershire won the match or Middlesex didn't manage to win. So all the boys would come back at 5:30. We were sitting in there with the Ceefax on, pacing up and down. In the end, the physio said it's on the radio, and at that point, Leicestershire required 3 runs. And Mullally scraped a 2 with an overthrow. Well, they need 3 runs to tie, which was enough for us to win the Championship. And we were listening to the radio, and Blowers gave it the old, well, Tuffram comes into bowls to Mullally, and he's hit it. And as soon as he said he had hit it, you know, all the boys sort of leapt to their feet in the physio room, thinking, you know, he's hit it for what, for 4, to win? And he's hit it in the air, and Embry's under it, he's going to be caught, yes, he's caught. And it was just so deflating. I have to say it was probably the worst few hours of my life, waiting around, watching the Ceefax. And you know, in the end, we've got to win here at Canterbury to make sure of the title.
Mathematical calculations were considered, because if Warwickshire got maximum bonus points in the last match at Canterbury, they would have got a share of the title. But they wanted to win against Kent and win in style. It was also Nick Knight's last chance to score a Championship century.
It was one of the big disappointments in the season, that I kept getting consistent scores and got through the new ball, and I'd done the hard work, and I get to 80 and 90 4 or 5 times, and just for some reason couldn't make that 3 figures. And it was something I began to wonder what I was going to do this year. And then, you know, fortunately, for me, the last game was an important game, and it was a big opportunity for me to go and, you know, put that score right.
Roger Toos, in his final match for the county, fittingly scored a century to take him past 1,000 runs. A first innings total of 468 for 6 declared put the champions in a very strong position. There was one other matter to put straight.
Once again, I haven't got a 5 in an innings or got 100, but I feel like, you know, I've had a decent year and contributed with bat and ball.
Reeve 5 for 30, only his second 5-wicket haul in 8 years at the county, but never a better time for it, as Kent were forced to follow on, and in under 50 overs the match and the title had been won. Yet again, Donald took the lion's share.
End of '94, I got the last wicket in the championship game against Hampshire, and then this year I found myself at first slip, which is not a usual position for myself. Dermot was suffering a little bit with a bad back, and I talked my way in. And I was dying to take the catch off Alan. Everyone kept saying, wait till you get one off Alan, you won't catch it, it'll fly through you. And I caught the last one.
The only thing I can remember was when he nicked it. I didn't even look at the slips. I just threw my hands up and I thought it's all over. You know, I'm just glad that Neil Smith caught one for once. And but it was almost thinking, that's it, it's all over. And it was a fantastic moment in my career, that knowing that in 8 years it was the last shot at it to win the championship, and it just felt so emotionally great. A fantastic feeling.
It's a lovely feeling. There's a great feeling off the field in the administration. You know, they'd love to see the players. There's a happiness about the club. Everybody working together. It's a team effort, both on and off the field, and we're all part and parcel of that team playing our part to bring about the success. And it's got to continue. We don't want it to go back to those latter 70s and 80s. They were very miserable days.
For me, the personal highlight would be the fact that we have done this in a bit of adversity. The likes of Gladstone Small, Tim Munton and Andy Moles have really only played half a season each, and they're three top county cricketers. So the likes of Wazim Khan, Dougie Brown, Ashley Giles, young players that have come in, and they haven't just done a decent job, they've actually done really well, and that's been very encouraging. It shows that the future at Warwickshire is in good hands.
The real statistic is that Warwickshire won 14 out of 17 games, and that's tremendous. You tell me that's the highest percentage wins, etc., since the war, and that is, the yardstick from Warwickshire's performance. When I first started, obviously I experienced the great Surrey side. They won 7 years on the trot, and I really can't imagine that sort of performance will ever be beaten. And they were a great side, but as far as we are concerned, we couldn't have done any better, and we look forward to trying again next year.
With the county championship in the bag, the only matter to be resolved was the question of Warwickshire's overseas player in 1996. Was Canterbury Alan Donald's swan song?
Well, no. Hopefully, I'll be back in 1997 playing for Warwickshire, and I've just signed a one-year contract with the Warwickshire Cricket Club up in Lancashire. It makes me feel more secure, and knowing that I've got another responsibility coming back in '97.
Well, whoever does turn up as Warwickshire's overseas player in 1996, I think their ability to hang on to, say, the NatWest or the Britannic Assurance Championship, that is not tied up with the availability or otherwise of one world-class player. Warwickshire's performances in 1995 nailed the myth that Brian Lara was central to their success, and in many ways their performances this season were more impressive than in 1994 because of injuries to key players throughout. Now, the absence of Alan Donald means that around 80 to 90 wickets are going to have to be found from the seamers, and Warwickshire will hope that they stay fit during what's bound to be a long, hard summer. I think they're going to miss Roger Toos, his confidence, his runs, as he starts building an international career with New Zealand. But I would have thought if you won 6 trophies in 2 seasons here at Edgbaston, the foundations must be strong and the younger players will keep coming through. Whatever happens, Warwickshire's players will continue to enjoy themselves on the field, stretching themselves because of the self-belief that's established from a positive base by Dermot Reeve, their captain. Now, Warwickshire may not be the most popular side on the county circuit. You aren't often a popular side when you're successful and you're winning trophies like these.